and Data Director at Domino's, to talk about how they've transformed into a £1 billion app-first business through brilliance. Okay, can we put it together? Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone hungry? All right, there's a few Domino's people here, so no votes allowed from a Domino's folk. All right, we're going to start right here. So you need to put your hands up if you think it's higher than this number. So how many pizzas do you think we sell a year in Domino's UK? Is it over 50 million pizzas a year? Hands up if you think it's higher than that. Keep your hands down if you think it's lower. I can't quite see. It is bright. Who just said it was bright? Hands up. Yeah, it's most of you. Yeah, correct. So we do sell more than 1 million pizzas a week. In fact, we sell more than 2 million pizzas a week. We sell over 110 million pizzas per year in the UK. Crazy, isn't it? And if you want to know my favorite pizza, controversial, ham and pineapple. I know some of the people know that one. Votes for the pineapple. All right. So if you think about that stat for a minute, we sell over 110 million pizzas a year in the UK, and that's the UK alone. You can amplify that number globally. If you think about that number for a minute, what that means is it's absolutely incredible the amount of data that we collect on a consumer basis. So over 100 of those 110 million pizzas are sold online, which is massive, massive. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our journey around becoming what we've coined the Netflix of pizza and what that means. And it starts, first of all, right here. If we sell over 100 million pizzas online per year, that is an absolute shed load of data, right? So we collect millions and millions, in fact, hundreds of millions of rows of customer data all of the time. And so our journey is, we are a data company, absolutely a data company. However, the story we have to tell sometimes is we don't always act like a data company. We do act like a pizza company. I mean, you might think, well, why is that important, Nick? Why does that even matter? You know, you sell 100 million pizzas, so what? Let me tell you why, and this is really important. Let's look at history. Let's look at this chart, okay? Let's look at what's going on in our space in the quick service restaurants or QSR space. On the right-hand side, you can see search trend volumes on Google, okay? You can see one of the aggregators, Just Eat, and you can also see the Domino's keyword searches, okay? You can see what's happened. Things have started to shift in our industry, quite big actually. And the problem is, if you look at the right-hand graph, do you think we haven't seen this chart before in another very interesting industry? I know you've got headphones on, so this won't work actually, I didn't know that. Okay, anyone want to take a guess at what the blue and red lines are over here? I'll give you a clue. Netflix and Blockbuster. Now if you look at it, those graphs look almost identical. Scary, right? Let's fast forward to see what history did. Oh dear. Oh dear. So we're very, very, very cognizant of the fact we're in a data e-com industry. We're not necessarily in the food industry and the QSR industry, okay? Vitally important. And why is it important? Well, it's fine. We've kind of gone through the digital era, which is the poster childs of Amazon and the likes, okay? They dominated personalization in that digital era, data era, pre-sort of 2020. Now, if you fast forward and look where we are now, the customer expectations have changed. The leaders in personalization and data-driven e-commerce, okay, Amazon are great, I've got nothing against Amazon, but the powerhouses, and I hope you agree, Instagram, TikTok, brilliant. And then you've got, obviously, the food players we play against. You think Uber Eats is a pizza company? This is an absolute serious e-commerce business, data-driven e-commerce business that we sort of compete with. And then you've got all the unicorns that are popping up. You know, Vintage, you've got Zoe, you've got Whoop, etc. They're absolutely data-driven businesses, right, that are in our world and setting consumer expectations. And when we talk about data, and I hope there's a lot of people here who just play with data as well in their organizations, there's two sides of data, okay? There's the stuff that really, really is important, like the democratization of reporting, the KPIs, making sure your entire organization has access to the things that you're trying to measure. Critically important as a data business, okay? But that's kind of like the boring side of data. The sexy side of data is what you start doing with it for the customers on the front end, which is where you start seeing the world-class leaders at the moment, like Netflix, like Instagram, like TikTok, etc. So the Netflix of pizza for us, if you think about it, came from two sides. It came from the story of Blockbuster and Netflix and how we don't want to be Blockbuster. We want to fight against that wave and become the Netflix. And also, if you look at it this way, what we want to do is we want to be absolutely where Netflix is, smarter with our data, so we can provide more simpler and a much more relevant experience for our customers, so the customers just love us and shop with us time and time again. So that's where that came from. So a bit more kind of practicality now for you to sort of take with you. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper now in terms of how do we slice our data? Now, we slice it a lot of different ways because, like you said, we have billions of rows of data. And I'm not going to talk through some of the marketing segmentation we have. I'm going to talk to you through a lens of like e-com, more like CRM side today, actually, because that'll be a whole separate talk. So, simplistically, I'm sure you all organize your data in CRM to some degree like this, okay? Start with a bucket. We have an active customer base that sit firmly in that bucket. We got nearly 13 million active customers in the UK alone that buy that 100 million plus pizzas a year, okay? So we've got 13 million active customers. Simplistically, and I know you all kind of work with leaky buckets, I'm just going to give you a 101. I know it's teaching to suck eggs, okay? The bucket leaks, it always leaks. You lose customers, unfortunately. So you've got to keep topping it up, which is what we do with new customers. You've got customers that look like they might be falling out of that bucket, lapsing. So we've got to make sure we protect those bases. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. And then finally, unfortunately, some you lose, all right? No business has not got a leaky bucket. I'd love to work in one that didn't, but it doesn't happen. Okay, so now if you look at that segmentation and just simplify it quickly in terms of business value, let's look at it this way for our business, all right? So if I'm talking to the board, I'm saying, like, look, if I can get 1%, just 1% growth in the active customers' frequency, look at the difference, all right? Transforms our business by £13 million, okay? 1% isn't sexy, I know that, so 10% gives you 130 million. That's a bit more sexy, okay? But you can see where the focus then needs to be. The focus needs to be in that small 1% gain in our active frequency. And when I challenged the team on this one a few years ago, and we've got only a small data science team, but a brilliant data science team. I said, look, I want you to trawl over the billions of rows of data we have, the billions of rows, and I want you to tell me the 3 things that make a difference to frequency to shift that number. Give me the 3 things. All right? They looked at God knows how many algorithms and 40-odd data points that really kind of gave a summary. But you know what the 3 things were that shifted frequency to make that number move? The 3 things were, one of them was external. I can't control that. Weather. All right? It's really interesting in our business. When the weather's bad, people stay in and we order pizza, okay? Probably no shit Sherlock, but anyway, we had to look at the data for that one. The 2 things we can control were internally generated. Probably no surprise. Service. Okay? Deliver great service, no surprise, your pizza turns up hot, it tastes good, you probably order again. Okay, all right, what's the other thing? The other thing that absolutely drives frequency and shifts that needle, all right? It's that, the app. Our app had a significant lifetime value growth over non-app customers, upwards of 30%. So what we've done is we've done a significant shift in our business to become an app-first business. And the numbers are staggering. You know, we now are a £1 billion app. You know, yeah, it was already about 300, 400 million, so now it's a £1 billion app. One of the biggest food and drink apps in the country. We've now got over, well, almost 10 million active app customers. That was about 5 million only 18 months ago, so we've doubled the number of active app customers. And if you look at it from a percentage of our business now, it's pretty much 80% of all our orders, up from about 40%. So we've just gone on an absolute turbocharge of growing that app. Why? Because it drives frequency, and it drives our active customer growth and the stickiness. Now, there's other things it also does too. It provides a very strategic position on the phone, which the food and drink sector does operate in more of an app sort of space. So it's something that's important for us, okay? I could do a whole 20-minute talk on how we've done that, but I'm not going to do it today. What I am going to do is go through this. So what else? So this is about data-driven e-commerce, right? So we understood our data and we said it points to the app, points to service. We've really, really doubled down on the app and we're doubling down on service. Okay, tick. What else are we doing? So I talked about the leaky bucket a little bit, and I know you have leaky buckets if you work in a brand, and certainly if you own the first-party data. But in terms of a segmentation of that leaky bucket, I mean, an RFV model is pretty typical, right? What we worked on is an RF model, actually. We don't really go down the value model. We don't need to. We believe RF is right for our business. So we look at the recency of a customer's order, like how often they make it, frequency, and how soon they make it. They're the critical data points for us. And there's a whole host of different segmentation we have underneath that, but simplistically, that's the segmentation. And if you look at it through this lens, I mean, a lot of businesses have a Pareto. We don't have quite a perfect Pareto, but broadly speaking, we have 20% of our customer base delives over half our orders. So what you might be thinking now is, I hope, is, okay, Nick, you need to drive 1% frequency growth. That's going to give us some income to the business. How the hell are you going to do that? How are you going to get more of those better customers? Okay, really important. Probably no surprise that I put this slide up. Loyalty programs. Okay, loyalty programs could be a key driver. This slide, I know someone sat in this audience will know very well because he works in my team. Loyalty, and we don't have a loyalty program. Well, that's not true. We have a pilot at the moment, but we didn't have a loyalty program a couple of years ago when I was started on this journey. All right, a loyalty program, as you know, can be very expensive. Number one, okay. Number two, it can be an incredibly high risk as well. Not only from an investment perspective, but just consumer adoption. And if you don't get it right and you have to change it, all sorts of shit happens basically. All right. So you've got to absolutely make sure you are very confident when you're going into a loyalty space from a zero base. Okay. And so what we have been doing, and it's really interesting, is starting with some really, really low cost investment testing, which I'm going to show you a little bit of, and then moving into another reason why we became a really, really strong app-only business is because then we can start doing testing in our app, which is a bulk base of our customer base, to do some really, really tight pilot testing on a really low investment loyalty scheme. Okay, so let's start with the testing first because this is really, really interesting. So what we've been able to do for our segmentation, our data is take customers who've ordered roughly about average, so roughly about 3 to 5 times per year, right? We'll take that customer cohort, okay? And what we'll do is, and I'm just going to call someone out, I know he's over there, Damien, sorry, I'm going to use you. So, only because I know your name. So let's say Damien has ordered 4 times at Domino's in the last X period, okay? What we're going to do is, well, I'm not going to say but I'm not going to do it. The team are going to do this. They're going to email and they're going to contact through push notes and other things. They're going to contact Damien and they're going to say, hey, Damien, place one more order with us. One more order. And you know what? The next one, we're going to give you a free pizza. All right? Which is basically kind of like a loyalty program, right? But not expensive because you're doing that through the CRM channels that you currently own. So that's what we did. And we did that to a lot of customers, actually. I'm not going to give you exact details behind it, so you don't go and game our system and get a load of free pizzas. But that's essentially what is live and what we've been running. And actually versus the control, because everything we hold against the control to generate incrementality testing, as you can see, what that's done is delivered a proof point, which is the right incrementality we need to move to the next stage, which would be a very low scale, low investment pilot within loyalty. And hence where we come to Domino's Rewards. And this isn't something we plucked out of the box. We spent certainly many of the years I've been at Domino's now doing consumer research on, etc. So Domino's Rewards was the starting point for us. And it was a very, very simple piece, right? Very, very simple. It was a simple stamp card that we did and we got through various rounds of customer research. It was simply spend 5 orders, really, a minimum of £10 per order, or $9.99. 5 orders and you get a free large pizza. Okay? Very simple, executed app only, not store-based, but we're 92% online anyway, but it's not store-based, purely online and purely app only. And we stud this up with our brilliant app agency, Academy, but also our CRM agency and solution, Braze, as well. And the internal teams have done a phenomenal job. So we stud this up really, really low cost, okay? And again, started to prove the business case. It's delivering what we expected to deliver. This is out now there with a few 100,000 customers in trial and testing before we go to a full scheme. So that's another route to driving that frequency growth to move that 1% needle to give us the benefit that we need. Okay. Now, the only final section I wanted to talk about quickly was a part of the bucket which is actually where we start seeing customers potentially lapsing. So I'm not going to talk through today around every single program. It'd be boring and it'll be all day long. Okay, so we only have a few minutes. So I wanted to talk about the customers that are slowing, are starting to fall out of that leaky bucket, okay, and how we use data to solve that one, which is slowing the churn, okay? And so slowing the churn, quite simply, if we look at, the billionaire founder of Domino's, who's still involved a little bit, Tom Monahan said simply, if you never lose a customer, your sales can only go up. Pretty basic logic, which is what this program aims to do. So what we do is we take a very simple customer-led model and we look at the average days between their order. So we look at their order cycle pattern and you'll see customer 1, customer 2 here have different order patterns. And what we'll do is, when they start slowing their typical order pattern, then we'll go, hang on a minute, they've slowed. We might wait a little bit, and then we'll hit them with something specific. This is absolutely tailored to a customer, and it's something the data team have built as part of our algorithm. It's an always-on program, and we run it every single day, and obviously customers fall into this bucket, and we give them something very, very unique as an offer, also depending on the value of that customer. Typically, the high-value customers, because that's when the frequency starts to slow and you can see it. Okay? Make some sense? Okay? Now, I know I'm getting time warnings, but we could talk about it a lot more. But what I want to do is make sure you get a couple of minutes just to take away some summaries back to your teams, back in your businesses. So a quick summary from me, and sorry if your appetite is now growing for pizza after all these images. It's not a hidden sales pitch for Domino's food, although I'd love for you to order pizza from us and not our competitors. But simply, what is the summary? So it's simply here. So, you know, if you're in e-com and you're a first party and you have rich data, you essentially are a data-driven business. You're a data business. Absolutely leveraging that data will 100% take you to the next level, okay? You'll find brilliant nuggets in that data. You will find it. And understanding the levers from that data is even more critical. So one interesting stat that we have, that I haven't showed here, that we work on in our early life, so when we get a new customer in our program, you know, if we look at the new customers who go on to place another order versus those that don't, it's ridiculous how predictable humans are. It's about 70 to 80% of those customers that go to their next order do so on the same day. No shit, Sherlock probably. Order pizza almost every Friday or something. And then even more outstanding is broadly, it's about 60% of them order within an hour window of their first order. That's how predictable it is. And we also know if we get a couple of orders in a certain time period, we know what their trajectory is. If we get more than a couple of orders, we know where they move in terms of our business and how good a customer they are. So really understanding your data, understanding the levers, you can build programs and build insight to drive that value. And I'll say this, look, opportunities for growth are absolutely everywhere. You know, and even though I gave a very simplistic segmentation that's underpinned by a very, very complex one, is if you look at where we saw the big growth was in our active customers, the 1%, that drove the big volume. But actually, there's a few million quid to be had either side of that. And if you neglect those few million quids, then why? Like, they're opportunities. And I know prioritization, and I get that. I have the same challenges you guys have. But the reality is the opportunities there. Don't ignore those opportunities, because they'll also deliver value. Okay, I think that closes us on time. Thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it.